everybody, Jackie here, and I'm going to tell you about a race I ran recently for a trip. It was the Three Creeks Half Marathon in Denver, Colorado. So a little bit about my trip. I live between Baltimore and DC, so I was able to get a really affordable flight from Southwest direct to Denver both ways, so that was nice and easy. I stayed at the Extended Stay America Denver Tech Center in Greenwood Village. I do not recommend this place. I actually really like extended stays because they have a full kitchen, which makes making meals, especially breakfast before a race, really easy. But this place was pretty run down. It was nice, nice enough on the outside, but inside the facilities were pretty run down. There were drawers missing. I had to go to the front desk to ask for a hair dryer, which they didn't have. So he gave me the managers, things like that. Especially as a solo traveler, there's a certain level of safety that I need to feel at a location. So this one didn't give it to me, but I made do. I'm not a very picky, I've got visitors. I'm not a very picky person. So it wasn't to the point where I was going to cancel my, that I wasn't going to cancel my reservation and try somewhere else. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great. I certainly wouldn't go back there again. But I stayed for 2 nights. I arrived to Denver late Thursday night. Yeah, I had to think about that. Stayed the day, all day Friday, kind of explored the city of Denver. I've never been. And then Saturday morning was the race. I stayed most of the day on Saturday, dropped off my rental car, and flew back to Baltimore. So I didn't get to stay as long as I liked, but it's really nice to kind of explore a little city and kind of get an idea. And now I know that I'd like to go back there again sometime. So a little bit more about this race in particular. It was advertised as a very low incline or gain race for a half marathon. So less than 300 feet gain for the whole course. So that's amazing. And it was really spread out over 2 or 3 hills. Wow, somebody's loud just because I'm recording. I have 2 kittens and they only talk when, I need to do something. Not a lot of foot gain, which is great. Something I had thought of in the back of my mind, but kind of didn't really think about nor research, was running in higher elevation. Denver is the mile-high city because it is about 5,200 to 5,800 feet above sea level. And I live in Maryland, and it's probably about 200 miles above sea level where I live, if that. I knew it would be a bit different to run there, and I would say that the foot gain of the actual course was not it didn't impact me at all, but it was definitely the higher elevation that caused me to slow down and made the last couple of miles way more grueling than I had ever anticipated. My PR for a half marathon is 1 hour and 57 minutes so far. This one I clocked in at 2:09, which still isn't bad, but I was very surprised and kind of taken aback about how much I had to slow down and kind of take quick breaks. I'm someone that, well, at least for this race especially, I slowed down, grabbed water at every water station, and walked to the trash bin, which they purposely distanced, 1, because of social distancing and COVID, and 2, I think to kind of give you that chance to take a little breather. Before I continue to tell you about my trip, a little bit about me and traveling. I have been fully vaccinated since the end of February because I'm a full-time high school teacher. When I fly, I wear an N95 mask. I wipe down everything. People look at me and I don't really care. It's my life, my health, and my safety. I wash my hands pretty frequently, especially when I'm at an airport or a restaurant or anything like that. And I live alone. So as far as travel for me, it's different than it is for other people. If you live with other people, of varying ages, I think that maybe you're not ready to travel yet, and that's totally okay. But for me, it doesn't impact other people, and I'll get a rapid test when I come back from trips just to ensure that extra level before I go back in the classroom. So to each their own, but I think it's important to remember that everyone has their own comfort level as far as COVID. I still wear a mask and I wear it correctly when I go to the gym and I wipe everything down. Some people are not ready to go to a gym yet, and that's okay too. Like whatever works for you, that includes being safe and smart so other people that you don't know are protected is probably the way to go. So for me, I'm starting to book and choose these racing trips now, and I will start telling you about some other ones that I've taken in the past with the same level of precaution. So that is something to keep in mind. When I do a race trip, I do a pretty decent amount of research ahead of time, but I don't have like a solid itinerary that I follow, other than my race, of course. I make sure that day or that morning at least is pretty detailed. Things I like to do, I like to eat at a local restaurant, especially now that the economy has really taken a hit, especially the restaurant industry. There's nothing wrong with chain restaurants, but I was fortunate enough to never go without a paycheck because I'm a full-time teacher and I'm very cognizant of where I spend my money. So I tried to eat at local restaurants. I went to Lark Burger, which is a smaller, it's technically a chain, but it's more independent. It's independently owned, and it's kind of an upstart. So I ate there because that was near my hotel. I had a turkey burger and some Parmesan truffle tater tots. Amazing. Highly recommend if you're looking for something kind of low cost but very filling. I don't like to have really heavy or greasy things the night before a race, so I felt like the tater tots were just enough but safe enough to have the night before a race, and I really enjoyed it. I always pack 2 containers of instant oatmeal. One I eat when I first get up, and then one I eat either on my drive to the race or once I get there, depending on time, to give it some time to settle into my stomach and everything. So I don't really have any breakfast suggestions because that's what I did. But I also like to check out donut shops, and Denver has one of the Voodoo Donut chain. It's not really, I guess it's technically a chain. I think there's 2 Voodoo Donuts in Denver, and then the other 4 I think are in Portland, and there might be one more in California. Don't quote me on this. I'm not the donut expert, but I'm definitely a donut hunter. Fabulous donuts. I think I got the Portland cream and the peanut butter. Oh, I should have written it down. It was chocolate peanut butter Reese's kind of based. They were amazing. Highly recommend. I don't eat them before a run, just in case, but I had them afterwards, and that's kind of how I reward myself for a job well done. Another place that I went that was a local restaurant and bar was called Sobo 151. It's a Czechoslovakian bar. The owner is Czech. He has lots of Czech beers. About half or a third of the menu is traditional Czechoslovakian fare. The rest is more bar food. The locals, it's definitely a local hangout, so it was nice to kind of talk to local people. Being a solo traveler, I tend to strike up conversations of the people around me, learn some more about Denver culture, and got some recommendations as well, which was really fun. Other than donut hunting and eating at local places, I like to thrift and vintage shop. So I'm going to show you now some of the things that I found in case it's of interest to you or something that you'd like to try out. I also have a Depop shop of band t-shirts. My first YouTube channel is where I interview bands, and I think that was just sort of an evolution from there. I like to wear band shirts when I interview bands, but not the same band. That's weird. So my Depop shop has a lot of different bands that I have found in my travels. I will put the link down below. So I'm just going to show you a couple of the shirts that I picked up that will be listed there. Some of the shirts I got at thrift stores, and others I've gotten at vintage shops. So the shops that I really liked, there was a Goodwill that I really liked. There's also Boss Vintage Clothing, a store called Garage Sale, 5280s, which was like an excellent 80s store. I picked up something from The Simpsons there. I'm also a very amateur Simpsons collector. So I'll show you that in another video, but that's where I picked up something from there. And Regal Vintage. I will include a full list of places that I stopped, places that I recommend and won't in my blog, which I will post down below as well. So first to the shirts. I got this Lizzo shirt that has a line from her song, and that is a medium. The next one is from Ellie Goulding. A really crisp Metallica shirt in excellent condition. This shirt from Garbage that I am pretty sure I am not going to resell because I love that band. And sometimes I'm allowed to shop for myself. This second Justin Bieber shirt in my collection. This is from 2013. It's in really good shape. Another one from Maroon 5 that I found. And lastly, one from Panic at the Disco. So those will be on my Depop shop. Again, the link will be below. But speaking of shirts, I forgot to show you the race swag. So there was not a ton of race swag for this race, and that's okay. I feel like a lot of racing companies right now are probably really struggling. And so I think, you know, throwing in or getting people to donate things is probably really tricky right now. So above me is, there it is the bib number. Next is the shirt. It's a long sleeve tech shirt, which is, I personally think was sometimes hard to come by when I live in Maryland. Really good quality. I personally don't wear race shirts until I have finished the race. It's just my weird superstition. Tell me below how you feel about wearing the race shirt before you finish the race. I'm very curious if I'm the only one that feels that way. And then here is the medal. I'm gonna hold it close to the camera so you can get a good look at it. It's, I'm gonna start comparing medals to the size of my hand because I have a ton of different medals of various sizes, and I think that'll be helpful. So as someone who's about 5'5", average female hand size, I think is fair to say, really nice hefty medal. The conclusion of the race, there were a couple of vendors there, one from 303, which is a Denver-based company with t-shirts and hats. There were a couple of beverage companies there, but the piece de resistance was that they had pancakes for all of the runners. Socially distanced line, hand sanitizers before you grabbed your pancakes. They gave you each person 2 fresh, big pancakes. We're not talking little silver dollar ones. 2 full-size pancakes and sausage with butter and syrup and utensils. They were very much well set and prepared for that, which was a pleasant surprise. A lot of races that I've run lately, because of COVID, it's like grab your medal and go. That way we can all stay distanced and separate. We'll send you your medals and things like that. So it was really nice to be able to kind of have a nice treat, be able to sit down outside and spread out. The weather was so perfect. I totally lucked out for Denver weather because apparently 2 or 3 weeks prior it had snowed like 2 or 3 feet of snow, and the weather there was 73 degrees on Friday and it was 80 degrees on Saturday. So at the start of the race, which was about 8 o'clock, it was like 45 degrees, and by the end of the race it was about 55 to 60 degrees. So really great running weather, not too hot, not too cold. I highly recommend this race. If you are trying to set a PR, I highly recommend doing some higher elevation training. I have no knowledge about that, so that's definitely something that I would look into when I'm running more races out there. I recommend traveling to Denver when you feel it is safe and comfortable to do so. I think it's an amazing city. Broadway, north and south, has a ton of great independent shops. They are also a really big brewed beer city, so lots of stuff there. I will put links in my blog as well as far as museums. There's a ton of those as well. If I had stayed longer, I would have gone to check out one of those, but the weather was so wonderful that I didn't want to spend any time inside, and I lucked out because I rented my car from Avis. I try to stick to just one. That way I can kind of accrue credits and things like that. Right now, because of COVID, they sold off a lot of their cars to take in the money. So they don't have a ton of cars to rent out. And because I had arrived at I think my flight landed at about 11 o'clock. By the time I got to the pickup, I was very surprised because I paid for, I think, a Toyota Corolla or something, small and economy sized. And in my spot was a Jeep. I've never driven a Jeep before. I've always wanted one. And because of the weather, I was able to pop the top off of the hardcover Jeep and drive around the city for 2 days in the best spring weather. And I really enjoyed that treat. That was such a pleasant surprise. So highly recommend the Three Creeks Marathon, half marathon rather. I recommend traveling to visit the city of Denver and exploring that city if and when it feels safe to you. Please check out my links down below in the description box, subscribe, and I would love if you shared this link with any of your other friends that are runners or travelers or thrifters or donut hunters. Stay tuned for much more.